This is a clip from the Cannon podcast. To hear the full episode and get access to exclusive benefits, head over to patreon.com/thecannonpod and sign up for just £3 a month.
And it's not just Declan Rice either. You've also got a surprise link out of nowhere, and it was quite a decent link as well. It was from David Ornstein, an exclusive that Arsenal are trying to sign Jurriën Timber from Ajax, as George would say. And we're trying to get over the line. A first offer of £30 million has been made, or €30 million, rejected. Alex were closer to 50 to 60. And, you know, it did give me a little bit of a deja vu, PTSD from last summer, similar time. Lisandro Martinez, David Ornstein exclusive, another Ajax defender. You know, it is a bit of that sort of link there. It came out of nowhere. But Alex, what do you make of the Jurriën Timber link? And, you know, do you make sense of why Arsenal could sign him?
Well, after an evening on YouTube and FB Ref, I'm convinced he's the next Cafu. I'll be honest, until the link came out, I wasn't, you know, I'd heard of the player, but I wasn't particularly up on him. I'm still learning the player. What do I see? I see a very talented defender, someone who's extremely comfortable receiving off the back line, someone who can come into midfield. I see someone who is a right insert. You know, he can be your right centre back. He can be your sort of inside in the two on the right hand side. He could be your sort of option as an inverter coming out of fullback. He could just be your fullback. I think he has qualities in the final third. I think there's a number of ways he could be used, and I think obviously we're moving forward in terms of the squad building. And again, I always think about the group. I think about, okay, what are we missing from that kind of defensive group? I wonder whether, and this is another possible evolution, Gabriel, as in Magalhaes, is very talented at defending wide areas. I think one of his best qualities is his ability to defend wide areas. Now, I wonder whether we can kind of shift that across in the way that Ben White is less good, and I wonder whether there's something that Mikel thinks about there. If you have a three where you have Gabriel, let's say Saliba and White as your three, and Gabriel's able to defend that left-hand channel, and Timber can come inside, and then when you're defending, if you're in a four and Timber swaps back to the sort of right back, you've got Gabriel almost as your auxiliary left back. I wouldn't mind that. I think Gabriel is actually pretty talented, and you almost have Saliba and White, and Saliba's played left centre back before, by the way. I wonder if we see that as a change, and Timber allows us to do that. It's a possibility. I like the player, as I say. I need to keep learning him, but I think he's another one of these very techie, very progressive. You know, if you look at his numbers, they are insane, and obviously there's Ajax tax and league tax and all that sort of stuff. But if you look at his numbers and you look at how he progresses, how progressive he is, how well he receives, he's really good on the ball, as all Arteta defenders and most modern defenders are, but he's especially good. I really like the deal. I mean, we needed a kind of centre-backy, right-backy option. We were looking at Mohamed Simakan supposedly, and he seems like another really, really good option. Again, maybe it doesn't get done. I would be surprised if Ten Hag doesn't see that happening and make a move. I wonder whether that's why Ajax have allowed this to come out. But I would think it's a good option. I don't know whether he comes straight into our first 11, but I can see a number of ways of it working, and I think it could work in a number of different ways, and I imagine that's probably one of the biggest sort of things that is enticing about the deal for Mikel.
Yeah, I think the United stuff definitely does it doesn't fear me off, because one thing I would say about United and Dutch players, less Ajax players, they might have signed Martinez. Of course, he wanted to move to the Premier League. But in terms of Dutch players, they've had quite a few players gone there and flop. Memphis Depay as an example, Donny van de Beek. And, obviously, I think last summer, actually, you had no Frankie de Jong go there, and Timber, who was maybe looking to go there, was told by Louis van Gaal not to go there. So there seems to be something there where, maybe he's not as convinced on United. Arsenal, of course, are closer to a title than United are as well, and I think have more money to spend. I think it's possible, we have to negotiate quite a bit, so be prepared for a long transfer saga. But the fact that Arsenal have played out to the media means that they feel like they can get over the line. George, what do you make of the profile of the player?
Yeah, I think it's been a clear push by Mikel to address kind of an alternate ball-carrying progressor in the back line who has both the dueling capacity to step into midfield, but also allows us to keep a high line. We all saw what Holding did to our season, right? And, this is a player that doesn't allow that to happen. When you have a look at it, I think it's a very modest price, by the way, relative to the quality. that also kind of simultaneously allows us to maintain a lot of flexibility in our build-up. It allows us to really change that system that we saw at Wolves and see that come into play. The one thing I do want to warn for a lot of people, I think I'm seeing a lot of people saying he's Zinchenko inverted right back. That's not the case. He isn't a Zinchenko. He's a very sturdy defender. He's, I'd say, almost 10 times the defender of, Zinchenko. He's much more of a robust, powerful option. He is not somebody that's going to be cute in midfield, receiving higher up between the lines. He's very technical. He's got no angle bias. He can operate both left or right, and he can break into midfield, but he's not somebody that's going to receive higher up, turn, and play passes between the lines. Like, that's not something he's going to do. He's much more of a ball carrier. He's a roamer. He's somebody that at his heart is going to almost want to pick up the ball and keep running. He almost runs downhill. He's very much that type of player. He actually reminds me quite a bit of, Ryan Gravenberch at Bayern. When he first started out, he played a lot deeper. And then when he kind of transitioned into midfield, he was much more of a ball-carrying first kind of player. But he's punchy. People are concerned about his height. I'm not. He's got a very athletic jump. And he's got a really great athleticism to cover ground horizontally. And he's actually very intelligent about when he wants to step in the press, which I think is going to be something that's brilliant for Arsenal. Like, I think he, when I have a look at it, I think I maybe had a preference towards a Diomande at Sporting just because I felt he had a bigger frame. But then, at the same token, Diomande was twice the price of a Timber. And so I can understand the package that we're getting right now. I think he really suits the 1v1 press ideology that we were talking about a little bit earlier about the season. And I think that he's just a phenomenal ball player and build-up. The only thing is, again, I wouldn't think of him as a Zinchenko where he receives in midfield, can turn on the half turn and then face play. Again, he's a lot more sturdy, and he's somebody that's going to bring the ball from the back into midfield and then lay off. That is something that he will do. He can kind of follow in midfield, but I don't think if you're expecting a Zinchenko level of ability in midfield, that's not right to apply to Timber. He's a little bit different, but he is a lot more sturdy in 1v1 duels. I think he's more going to be our Nathan Ake than our Zinchenko, let's say, or a Rico Lewis. In fact, one of those types of.
I wonder, George, and sorry to cut across you, but I wonder whether that's the perfect player then to sort of facilitate those flip dynamics. Because if we are generally going to play with Gabriel, Saliba and White, then we've got Gabriel, who would have Zinchenko next to him. Gabriel's the better defender, can play on the wide areas, isn't as cute and can't give you that option. Whereas Ben White on the other side, if Timber is less of a receiver, less there, Ben White can give you something else on the other side. So I wonder if that's kind of the perfect complement to those two flip dynamics.
Well, one thing I will tell you is, who benefits? It's Kieran Tierney, oddly. And there are rumors of him potentially staying. When you have that type of Timber at right back, and then you look at kind of a Kiwior or a Kieran Tierney type left back, that flips kind of the Wolves dynamics a little bit more. And so it's somebody that can definitely come in. But, kind of what you were saying, Alex, I think it really, on the opposite ends, would facilitate a more high and wide option left back. Less so of a Zinchenko. And it gives Arsenal that flexibility. So do you want to play with the left side being a little bit more inverted or the right? Sometimes that could switch. So I just think it gives Mikel a lot more tools to be able to do that. And we'll have to see. But again, Kieran Tierney staying opens up a lot more with a Timber than he does with other defensive additions.
And it is very exciting to see all these links at once. I will say, just be a little bit careful as Arsenal fans, because we saw somewhat similar last year, the whole Rafinha opportunity, Lisandro Martinez and Jesus and all that type of stuff. It's very hard to get these transfers over the line. So interest is one thing, advanced negotiations is another, but actually agreeing the fees and getting them over the line is a long, long way away. But one thing we need to talk about actually to end this off is Chelsea. And the Saudi Arabia private investment fund, all the rumours behind the scenes of what's happening. I think Alex has got something he wants to say about it, so go away, bro.
Thanks for checking out the Cannon Podcast. To get full episodes and access to exclusive benefits, head over to patreon.com/thecannonpod and sign up for just £3 a month.